Please rise as we post the colors and remain standing for our national anthem and the reciting of the pledge. Detail. Post the colors. Gold Star families would please join me at the front to begin the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order. Order. Thank you very much. Face.
Please join me in welcoming, you may have your seats, please. Please join me in welcoming Reverend James Finno of the St. Stephen Parish for the invocation.
Just bow our heads in prayer for a moment. A loving God, protector of all of your children, bless our gathering today. May this gathering continue to help us to remember the sacrifices of those who mean so much to our nation. We give thanks for all who have served our nation. We remember especially those who have given their lives. Gather them into your care, be with their families, and comfort them in their loss. Protect all who serve today. Bless us with peace, so that no more men and women be added to the names of those we have to remember today. Again, we thank you for the service and the sacrifice of all we remember. We pray that you bless us in the name of the one God who gives life to all. Amen. Amen.
At this time, I invite our Mayor of Tinley Park, retired Colonel David Seaman, to the podium. Mayor.
First of all, welcome. We've got great weather, great company,
great music. It doesn't get better than this. And I thank you all for being here. The Veterans Commission is one of those organizations in town, we're fortunate and blessed to have many, that basically help us remember. And we try to remember day in, day out, 24 hours a day, because it's important that we do remember. It's important that we remember the sacrifices that have been made, not only those that have been lost, but those that bear that ongoing burden of loss. At this point, I would like to ask that the members of the commission that helped put this event together, a Veterans Commission, rise and be recognized, please. It's their efforts, coordination, and collaboration with all the services that we have in town that help make this type of event a reality. Also, helping make that a reality are my colleagues on the village board that have joined us today. And with that, our resident retired Brigadier General, Clerk Patrick Ray. Trustee Brian Maher and his wife Patty are out here. And Trustee T.J. Grady. So I can assure you that Tinley Park does remember. And we miss those that have been lost as well in our hearts, and they're in our prayers, as are you. With that, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Stephen, Village Clerk, retired Army Brigadier General Patrick Ray, village trustees in attendance, village staff, fellow members of the Tinley Park Veterans Commission, Gold Star families, and invited guests, and villagers of Tinley Park. Good morning, and thank you all for attending today's ceremony. Tinley Park recognizes Memorial Day as a solemn day of thanks and remembrance of those who, while wearing the uniform of our nation, died in war to defend and preserve our freedoms. Many take for granted the ultimate sacrifice paid by those brave souls. Therefore, we set aside one day during the year to remember. 2016 marks the 150th year that we honor their memory through ceremonies such as this. This morning, members of our service organizations conducted a ceremony at each of our local cemeteries. We selected a gravesite of a veteran, vowed to continue to honor their service, and say a prayer, followed by the planting of a symbolic flower, a rifle salute, and the playing of taps. This year, on Loyalty Day, we also decorated the gravesite of Private John Fred Bayer, a World War I veteran. Because this veteran ultimately died from complications of tuberculosis, his remains were laid to rest in a potter's field. At that time, it was common practice to isolate those grave sites. Although no relatives can be identified at this time, he still has family that continue to respect his memory. His brothers in arms assume that responsibility. We've heard the phrase, "Let no soldier be left behind." It speaks to everyone who serves or has served in the military and remains a time-honored tradition. That is why we display the POW MIA flag next to Old Glory. Freedom is not free. It comes with great dedication to our nation's principles as well as great sacrifice, not only for the soldier but for the families back home. When you recite the Pledge of Allegiance or sing the national anthem, you come close to understanding the heart of a veteran. Throughout history, there have been a number of events that have spurred our nation to war. This year marks the anniversary of a number of those events. Pearl Harbor took our nation by surprise. With 2,403 dead during that attack alone, That event marked our entrance into World War II some 65 years ago. During our involvement in World War II, we lost 405,399 men and women dedicated to the principles of freedom. Korea claimed 33,686 soldiers. Vietnam, 58,209. It was not until September 11th, 2001, that our nation again was surprised by terrorists attacking our nation. The images of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, another simultaneous attack at the Pentagon, and yet another plane crashed into the fields of Pennsylvania will forever be etched in our minds and souls. It is for this reason that our featured guest, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Yantis, is invited to speak with us today. Colonel Yantis and his wife Sharon reside in Crystal Lake, Illinois. Please refer to the back page of your program for a brief bio of our honored guest speaker. And join me in welcoming retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Yantis.
Major Roberts, thank you for that gracious introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Tinley Park elected leadership, Mr. Mayor, Mr. General, sorry, I can't do it. Tried to say Mr., wouldn't work. General Ray, thank you for having me. Reverend, it was a pleasure meeting you before the service. Members of the Tinley Park trustees and the Veterans Commission. What an awesome group that's put together a great event this morning with all the right things. I'd also like to recognize and ask all of our active duty military to rise and be recognized. Come on, Lieutenant, do that. I got a hat just like that at home. They're really cool. My fellow veterans, Gold Star families, members of the band, all of you have come together today to help make this a awesome Memorial Day. And I'm one of the outliers because I say Happy Memorial Day. And I'll get to why I say that. Memorial Day is probably the most misunderstood holiday observance in our nation. It falls a week after Armed Forces Day, where we celebrate the different services. It starts that summer season. For many parents, it's that 3-day punctuation ending the school year and starting the months of, you know, Mom, what do we do today, or the family vacations. It's also, if you watch cable TV, the opportunity to watch all those great old military history war movies, or the endless marathons of programming. Far too often, those programs are punctuated with sales on mattresses and cars and food. Come in for our Memorial Day special because we want to honor our veterans. Well, it's not what the veterans are about. Veterans have Veterans Day off in November. This is a day to remember those who died under the flag. While still in uniform. Not only here in Tinley Park, but across the country. Up where we're at in Crystal Lake, they have a great event. Wakanda is stepping out today with a parade. Chicago offsets theirs a couple of days and has an awesome, very dynamic Memorial Day parade that they do on Saturdays. But regardless, across the country, it's also a time for private, quiet events. Because it's our day to remember, to reflect, and to honor all those who died in service to our nation, to our republic, and that's a republic with a little r, and to the Constitution while under the flag. It's that simple. And while it's not the day to thank a veteran, every day's a good day to do that. It's not a day to pick one branch and honor it above the others. It's not a day to promote war or military adventurism, but it's a day to focus and remember on those who paid the price for our freedoms. Since 1776, some 40 million men, women, and even at times children served in our military forces. 1.3 million died in combat from wounds, from disease, and from accidents in times of hostilities. And many more, I hate to tell you, die in peacetime in accidents, illness, and other causes. Our military stands challenges and needs our help in meeting their needs with ongoing actions on the war on terror, which is now nearing its 15th year. With 2.1 million in uniform, serving in more than 120 countries around the globe, with honor, they help our friends, they help our allies, and they serve the needs of our nation. That 2.1 million, Army, Marine, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard, that's fewer than 0.4% of the population of the United States. As an aside, I often joke that I'm a member of one of the fastest diminishing demographics in America, and that's the American veteran. Right now, our military forces, proportionally, are some of the smallest force strength that we've ever had, with amazing needs and missions. And this thin line of military personnel, who are all volunteers, they've all stepped forward. They all raised their right hands and swore to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies. They, ladies and gentlemen, are an amazing national treasure. Now, in 2006, I was able to step away and retire from the Army. And I was also able to step away from a mindset, one of being an active duty soldier, where at 19, you sit down and have a serious discussion and plan your own funeral and write your own will. You write a last letter home and you leave it with a trusted buddy in case you don't make it back. Or getting up every day and making sure your dog tags are on, and if you're going to go do something silly with tanks or where you're in harm's way, you might write your blood type on various parts of your body just in case something bad happens. So I want the medics to know which blood goes in. Getting to set aside that kind of preparation is sobering. And while I joined the Army to lead troops, and I did so for the first 11 years as a cavalryman, patrolling the east-west German border and near the DMZ in Korea, I was very fortunate, and I'll say this again, I was very, very fortunate not to have to lead troops in combat. The second half of my career, I served as an Army spokesman, and while I did get to go and see and do amazing things in Bosnia and Africa and elsewhere, one of the most salient moments of my second half was being at the 50th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. And I understand today we have a gentleman in the audience, at least one, was pointed out to me, who is a veteran of the Normandy invasion and the following Battle of the Bulge. Sir, if you're able, there you go. Please rise. And again, being there for the 50th anniversary of Normandy, at Colville-sur-Mer, the American cemetery, where there are over 8,000 graves, where privates lay beside generals, Medal of Honor recipients intermingled amongst all the ranks. Men and women who died liberating France and freeing or kicking the Nazis out of Europe. It was a very sobering and special honor. Working with the veterans, hearing their stories, hearing them talk about those who didn't make it back was very sobering. It was very important. And almost to a man, they were telling their stories to tell the stories of those who could not speak for themselves. It was mentioned that I served in the Pentagon. I was dragged kicking and screaming into that place in the summer of 2000. Some people like working in higher headquarters. Remember that cavalryman? I like working a couple of hills away from headquarters. Farther the better. And there I was on the E-ring of Corridor 6 in the Pentagon, and I had been there for about 14 months. My job was to be a spokesman for the Army. My team, we focused on people and personnel issues. And at the time, the Army had about 1.3 million men and women serving. Now, statistically, if you have a 1 in a million chance of something bad happening today, and you have 1.3 million folks in the Army, unfortunately, every day is your unlucky day. My team had the very tough assignment of coordinating the press releases for any active duty deaths that occurred around the globe. This was before 9/11, and it was a steady drumbeat. Traffic accident in Japan, an accidental weapon discharge in Europe, training incident, bad things happening to good folks. And we would do a release and acknowledge their service and their loss from our seat of government. Well, on that day in September 11th, 2001, after having run around the Pentagon and run in and out of the building and help evacuate people and carrying folks in and out on stretchers and providing first aid and comfort that we could, about 4 o'clock that afternoon, I ended up back in the Army Operations Center, and I had my boss over one shoulder, so I had a colonel. He had a 1-star on his right side, and the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army, who was a 4-star general, all were giving me detailed, no, I'm good. Okay, thank you. They were giving me detailed instructions on how to write the press release, listing the names of all those who we believed had died in the attacks. Now, for the military, we all know KIA or MIA, because those have meanings: killed in action, missing in action, POW, prisoner of war. We had the unfortunate situation where we had a building that was still on fire, and we didn't know who was where. And for days and even weeks after the attack, we were still finding out people that we were presuming had perished in the attack were in fact alive. So that up until that point, they were Dust 1, duty status, undetermined, whereabouts unknown. And writing that list, with 125 names, is an amazing and sobering task, especially when you know some of those names, when you've worked alongside those names, when you've run in and out of the building trying to help get people out and hoping that somehow, some way, their office, which was fully in the area that had been impacted, that they made it out by some stroke, some luck. Now, I talked about MIA, KIA, and Dust 1, and while it's not universally true, the one thing that I know from my experience is in each case, every effort was made to mitigate and to support those families. Because the longer we carried them, and it's going to seem kind of cruel, we carry them in Dust 1 status, but that allows a young mother to retain all of her benefits for her children while we were sifting through the ashes looking for her husband. Or putting a terminally ill or critically injured soldier through medical retirement in a very fast process to, again, protect the benefits for their family. That was something that was important. On a personal level, going back to something as innocuous as a press release, by law, we had a requirement to push out the press release as soon as we could after we got notification done. That meant that the families, the Gold Star families, had been told of their loss. And based on feedback from the families, we went back to the Congress and to DOD, and we told them, give us 24 hours. Let us make notification. Let the families have time to grieve and get the help that they need, and notify other family members so we don't have people learning of a loved one's death from CNN or other media. Working with Gold Star families is one of those other very honorable things that we do and that I've been able to do post-military career. Gold Star father Kirk Morris, who lost his son, Marine Corps PFC Jeffrey Morris, in Fallujah, Iraq in 2004, recently shared a quote that I'd like to read from Kirk. Quote, "I thought of you with love today, but that is nothing new. I thought about you yesterday and days before that too. I think of you in silence, and I often speak your name. All I have are memories and pictures in a frame. Your memory is a keepsake with which I'll never part. God has you in his keeping, and I have you in my heart." Another Gold Star father, Jim Frazier, He was an advisor to Governor Quinn, and he recently did an interview at the Pritzker Military Library, and he was responding to the question of, what do you say to a Gold Star parent? What do you say to a Gold Star family member? And his response, and I'll paraphrase, was, I'd ask him to offer condolence on their loss, then ask the name of their loved one who died. Ask them for a story about them. Keep them alive. And that's our task today, on Memorial Day and every day forward, is to remember, to reflect, and to honor. Learn about our heroes. They don't have one names and they don't dance around on stages. They wear camouflage uniforms, or they're in grease-stained overalls below decks on a ship, or they're underway in aircraft around the globe. You can use resources like the Tinley Park Public Library, or as was said this morning, we have the grave markers in the cemeteries here in town. Go and read their names. Take a moment and learn about them. Learn their stories if you can. If you hear that there's a military return ceremony where a soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine is coming home for their final rest, and there's an opportunity to pay your respects, I encourage you to do so. I'd also ask that you support your local veterans groups. They have the stories that they need to share with you. They need to tell their stories, and that's my challenge to my fellow veterans. Believe it or not, it's hard for me to talk about where I've been and what I've done. It's an obligation that I have to others whose voices are stilled. Many of us have that same burden. Share their stories. Keep them alive. So the American Legion Post 615, the VFW Post 2791, Korean War Veterans Association Chapter 3, and there are the heroes from the Forgotten War. They've got stories you need to hear. Our U.S. submarine veterans, the USS Chicago Base, the Marine Corps League, who's named after Marine Corporal Kevin M. Clark, who is of Tinley Park. I believe his parents are here today. Thank you. You know, they say, once a Marine? Sorry. Thank you. So, you know, the Army pushback is, yeah, we're soldiers for life. You know, the oath of office has no expiration date. Service changes us, makes us more, and it makes us better. I'm going to ask you to, again, to learn and honor. So who do I honor? Who are my heroes? The easy ones to talk about are like U.S. Marine Corporal Woody Williams, Iwo Jima, from February of 1945. He's leading an effort nationwide to put a Gold Star family memorial in each state. Sal Genta, one of the recent recipients, who talks about those who died in the action where he earned his Medal of Honor, and he wears it for them. There's a great article in today's paper by Medal of Honor recipient Clint Louisa, who earned his at Combat Outpost Keating in Afghanistan. And he's challenged himself and he's challenged his fellow veterans from that action to write a book about the action, to tell the story, and it helped bring closure to the Gold Star families that they were with. Another one of my heroes is Army PFC Lorianne Pestowa, who at 23 was captured and died in captivity in Iraq. She was a mother of two and one of our first female KIAs in Iraq. And by all accounts, she went down fighting. And while not technically on active duty, Colonel Rick Riscola, who was the security manager for Morgan Stanley and the World Trade Center, who applied Army leadership and military standards, enforced compliance with emergency drills, and made sure that all of Morgan Stanley's employees made it out of the World Trade Center alive. He lost his life along with a handful of his security men going back and helping to evacuate others. Sergeant Major Lacey B. Ivory. Sergeant Major Ivory and I signed into the Pentagon the same week. Like me, he was trying to figure out his fastest way out of the Pentagon. unlike me, he was unfortunate on September 11th, and by all accounts, his remains were discovered. His office was in a safe area, should have made it out okay, but he had gone back in to try to help others and was overcome by smoke. When he died, he had 4 daughters, a wonderful wife, and 2 grandkids. Army Chief Master Sergeant Robert Neal Ivey. Neal was a high school buddy of mine. He had taken his troops to Afghanistan and brought them all back safe, and then was hit and died in a traffic accident in 2013. Another one on a personal note, and this is where I learned my own history, is Army Private Thomas F. Eastburn of Iroquois County, Illinois, who at 36 joined the Union Army in Company E of the 76th Illinois Regiment and marched south. He died in captivity on September 28, 1864, near Memphis in a Confederate prison camp. His infant daughter was my great-great-grandmother. Keep them alive and honor them. So please, as you leave here today, remember to reflect, honor, and remember, and support those who do. I know I've been talking for a while, and I apologize for the length. I want to thank Chris Hansley. Where's Chris? She's a member of your Veterans Assistance Commission. If you want to blame somebody for my remarks, I'll take the hit, but she's the one who invited me. She's a lovely lady. She's a volunteer with Pritzker Military Library, and she's helping Woody Williams with his Gold Star Family Memorial effort. And Chris, good luck with that, because that's a very important thing. I'm here today as a Pentagon survivor, Army veteran, and somebody who wants to honor those who've served. And American Pride is a group of Pentagon and World Trade Center survivors, and this allows us to come and do events such as this. So please visit our website and learn more about us. In closing, and I apologize for going long, I'm going to ask you one last time. Remember, reflect, and honor. Enjoy your day today. I told you I'd circle back. It is a happy Memorial Day. Those who gave all, gave us the today. They paid their tomorrows for our today. Pay it forward, do good things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Colonel, and on behalf of the Veterans Commission of Tinley, I just presented the Colonel with one of our coins for him to remember Tinley Park fondly as he looks back on this wonderful 150th Memorial Day. Thank you, sir. What has now become a tradition, members representing all of our service organizations proudly conduct the Battlefield Cross ceremony.
My name is Bruce Lawrence, leader of the VFW Post 2791 Honor Guard in Tinley Park, and also a member of the Tinley Park's Veterans Commission. Many of us veterans, active and retired members of the military, are wearing our service uniforms today in memory of our fallen comrades. Shortly, we will be building a KIA monument, also known as a Battlefield Cross. I'll wait till the train is done. Shortly, we will be building a KIA monument, also known as a Battlefield Cross, in memory of our servicemen and women who have been killed in action in past and current wars and conflicts. Without the armed forces of the United States of America, we would not have the freedom we enjoy today. Freedom is never free. Unfortunately, all wars have been costly for our men and women in the armed forces. Between Iraq and Afghanistan, we have lost over 4,000 Americans and many more wounded. While that number may seem small in the context of past wars, their loss and the loss of their family and community is of great consequence. When a serviceman or woman is lost in the battlefield, it has been customary to arrange their boots, rifle, dog tags, and helmet, and the surviving members of the squad will gather around and honor their fallen comrade. Some of the troops will pray, others might recall personal stories, but make no mistake, this is a ceremony that is taken very seriously. Every soldier knows the next ceremony might be for them. This arrangement is also known as the Battlefield Cross or Battle Cross. Our VFW commander, Commander Sergeant Major Fred Cagle, will lead the Battlefield Cross ceremony. Fred has personally viewed 2 of these KIA ceremonies in the battlefields during his extensive career with the U.S. Army from Vietnam to the Middle East.
I like all this service, thank you, especially from the Navy. Airborne!
You had to get that in.
Had to get that in. The Honor Guard, members from the VFW and American Legion, the Marine Corps League, will now build a monument in front of you. A monument that anyone who has ever served in the military will recognize. Oh, take charge.
Detail, man, hook. Forward, hook. Detail, pull. Post.
The weapon has been inspected, the magazine removed, and the last round has been fired.
Post.
The military identification tags are commonly referred to as dog tags. This is a blank, no name, no serial number, or religious preference. They represent all those who have died and served in their country.
Post.
The helmet, a valuable piece of equipment, more than just for protection. How many have shaved in it, bathed in it, and even cooked in it? This helmet will no longer be worn.
Post.
These boots, worn and without polish, demonstrates the trails endure. These boots, which are threadbare, should never again touch the ground. Bring them in.
Detail. Post. Post. Flag. Raise that. Turn. Order. Turn.
The last roll call. This is a final tribute to the soldiers and their fallen comrades. The roll call is accountability conducted by the first sergeant that follows combat. Although sometimes painful to listen through, the last roll call is called with conviction held by soldiers that all unit members will be accounted for, and none will ever be forgotten. Corporal Sullivan.
Here.
Petty Officer Class Beza.
Here.
Sergeant Porter.
Here, Sergeant Major.
First Sergeant Class Garcia.
Here, Command Sergeant Major.
Tech Sergeant Mitch.
Here, Sergeant Major.
Petty Officer Lawrence.
Here.
Staff Sergeant Sutter. Staff Sergeant Sutter. Staff Sergeant Michael J. Southern.
Staff Sergeant Michael J. Sutter, United States Army, 745th Ordnance Company, killed in action at Baghdad, Iraq, 26 December 2003.
Corporal Clark. Corporal Clark. Corporal Kevin M. Clark.
Corporal Kevin M. Clark, United States Marine Corps, 1st Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment, killed in action, Al Arbor, Providence, Iraq, 19 February 2005.
Sergeant Guard, take charge, march detail. For a moment, please.
Detail.
Please give me a moment of silence. Sergeant Arm, proceed with the rifle salute.
Detail. Right. Face. Forward. Heard.
All veterans, please rise and redeem the hand salute as we play the tap. Play tap. Present. Arms. Order, arms. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise if possible and face the outside flagpole for the raising of the colors. Present, arms. Order, arms. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing while we place the wreath in front of the monument.
At Arlington Cemetery, a wreath is laid at the Tomb of the Unknowns. Here we conduct a similar tribute at the base of our battlefield cross. You may take your seats, please. Across this great land, the nation's flag flies at half-staff, reminding us all of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice that we might remain free. However, it is raised to full staff, indicating that our nation remains strong and resolute in continuing to be an example to the world. One of those examples is with us today. Recently, in February, Fred Junker, a World War II vet who was 99 years old, passed from our midst. Serving from 1942 to 1945, and I would like to invite his family up here as we offer one of the tributes that we have here in Tinley Park. If one of our veterans passes away, we have a flag that's flown over the Capitol building, and it's returned to us here in Tinley, where we fly it for a month over Oak Park Avenue train station. After that, the flag is presented to the family along with certificates of its honor.
There's also 2 certificates that come with this flag. After flying over the United States Capitol, this flag was flown in the village of Tinley Park during the month of April 2016 and is hereby presented to the family of Fred H. Junker with much gratitude for his service to a country.
We also have 3 families that have submitted forms for placement of bricks along the Heroes Walk that's behind me. After the ceremony, please take a little time and walk the Heroes Walk and understand that those bricks are only service members. There's no commercial entity that ever has a brick on the Heroes Walk. So please find a name and reflect on that this Memorial Day. Fred Junker and his family have purchased a brick. Also, Clarence Hornoff, a World War II vet, PFC, U.S. Army, 43rd Infantry Division, Pacific Theater of Operations in Luzon, Philippines. And also the family of Cheryl Hoffman, World War II veteran, U.S. Army, 103rd Infantry Division. During the course of the year, if you have an effort to go ahead and present a brick to a loved one, please do so. Bricks in our walk are not only for those who passed from our midst, but also those now currently serving. So it's open to all, and not just from Tinley, from surrounding communities as well. I would again like to invite Reverend James Finno for our benediction.
Let's bow our heads in prayer. Lord, we thank you for our opportunity today to remember, to reflect, to honor. May we leave here with a growing commitment to remember those who've given their lives for our nation. Remember to support all those whose lives have been affected by their loss. We ask you to bless all of us today and every day. Bless our nation with peace. Bless our armed forces with safety. We pray this in the name of the one God who gives life to all. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. This concludes our program.